Well, my friends, things may be peachy in Washington, D.C., but they're absolutely miserable in Washington state. The legislature is completely out of control. The Republicans are fighting back against the Democrat insanity, but it shows no end in sight. And the Democrats, in the process of pushing through their radical agenda, are exposing their own lies and hypocrisy. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is Representative Andrew Barkis from Olympia. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Great to be on with you again, Ari. Always a pleasure to talk to you about the fun stuff happening under the dome here in Olympia.
Oh, yes. So much fun. So let's break it down right away. So the Climate Commitment Act, that was Jay Inslee's baby, talking about how he was going to tax us only pennies, which turned out to be a lot more than pennies, for saving the climate, which isn't actually going to save the climate, but telling us about how this was going to invest in green energy and roads and bridges, and if you didn't pass it, they were going to take away money from roads and bridges. But from what I hear, they're doing that anyway. What's going on?
Well, before, did you see that Redmond took delivery of their $1 million electric fire truck? That's got to make you happy.
See that. I saw the $1 million fire truck.
God.
Well, I thought to myself, I wonder if this is going to be like Kamala Harris's school buses, which are in Kent, which are quadruple the price and haven't run because they're missing pieces.
Well, so the Climate Commitment Act, we fought this. We knew it was going to be a tax. They said it's not going to be a tax. We know this is revenue coming into the state. It does come into the state transportation budget. As we said, I'm a ranking member in transportation. I write the budget every year. But, the big thing is we pushed the initiative to repeal it. And the big campaign against it, which, they were successful after spending about $20 million. They told everybody that, if we took this money away, this revenue source for transportation, we couldn't fix anything like roads and bridges and all the things that we need in Washington state with a failing infrastructure. Well, the challenge is now, Ari, is that I'm trying to do a budget that has $1 billion hole in it due to ever-increasing cost of these projects. Think 520, 405, all the great things around Puget Sound. And I can't use that climate commitment money because it can only be used for things like electric fire trucks and transit and those things. So I've got a bill right now, Ari, and what it does is it changes the criteria by which the funds can be used. It also taps into if we do have an extra amount that comes in through the auction. And it is important. It's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue that we could be using for transportation to balance our budget without raising taxes or additional revenue. And the frustrating thing is that if we don't find these other revenue, then all these projects, all these things that we've been working so hard on, they're gone. They get paused. They get pushed out into, never, never land. And that will create even more problems for the people of Washington state.
So here's something I don't get. They had promised us, oh, no, if you defund this, if you take it away, we're not going to have money for roads and bridges. And now you're telling me it wasn't even going to that in the first place.
It does go to some things. I mean, it goes to a myriad of things that they claim, has a tie-in or a nexus with, carbon reduction. So the electric fire truck, the electric buses, transit, bike and ped paths, active transportation. But it's restrictive. So you've got money going into things that I'm not saying are bad, but are they the priorities of Washington state? And when we have a failing system, when we have projects that need to be finished, we have maintenance that's, by some accounts, they say it's $1 billion backlog of maintenance. I mean, just drive down the freeway, Ari. I mean, I keep driving by areas where guardrails have been damaged for maybe a year, right? I mean, there's crap all over the freeway, and there's a lot of different things that the maintenance and preservation, which is so important, but yet that money, what we only have is traditional sources, multimodal, which is all your fees, and then, of course, the gas tax, which is the original gas tax, that goes to roads and projects, and that is, it is a declining, it's not enough revenue to take care of all the increasing expenses. So it's a natural thing to say, hey, let's use the funds. That is a revenue source for transportation. And oh, by the way, you just got done telling everybody that we're going to use these funds for transportation.
Exactly. It's absolutely crazy that you have to fight for this. So the bill number is 1324, and you want to call the Washington State Legislature and you want to say yes to 1324. You want to make sure that they're doing this and changing this, and their number is 1-800-562-6000. That's 1-800-562-6000. Now, speaking of roads and bridges, you also have another bill out there where it's talking about making sure these Hamasniks and other Looney Tunes aren't blocking freeways anymore. You tried this last year. What's your hope that's going to get across this time?
About the same. I mean, Again, I started saying, how do I feel? How do you feel? People ask me, how you doing, Andrew? How you feel? Man, this is a tough session already, 4 weeks in, and it's going to get worse. We're doing the same things we've been doing, decriminalizing, changing processes, going back on deals that were made on policy. So the likelihood of this even getting a hearing is slim to none. It's a bipartisan bill. Democrats signed on to it, common sense bill. And it increases the penalties, of course, for this act that is illegal already, but not being enforced. So you need bigger consequences. You need bigger penalties, and maybe they'll stop doing it. It's interesting. I'm really surprised at when we saw the transition with the president. I'm really surprised we didn't see him back on the freeway. And now with all the immigration, it's just a matter of time. You just saw this in Los Angeles. You saw this in other areas where they were blocking the freeway, shutting things down. They'll do it again in Seattle. Somebody's going to get hurt or worse. And it is illegal. There are other ways that you can do your protests legally. So I'm pushing. I've had massive comments on this. We wrote it. We put a post out just to let people know that this bill was coming back. It was one of the most liked and shared and everything. I mean, people it resonates with the people of Washington, right? They're saying, yeah, we need to have stronger penalties. We need to keep people off our freeways. And so I wish the majority would listen to the people, and they would actually look at this and go, yeah, we need to make these changes. But not only in this piece of policy, but so many others that we're seeing this legislative session.
Well, the thing that I saw is one of the rookie legislators, Sean Scott, is the one who's actually getting people all ticked off about this, saying it's our right to protest on I-5. And I'm reading this and going, this is what happens when you elect a socialist from Seattle. You get this kind of insane insanity when they're advocating for it, especially after two of his own activists were killed during the BLM riots by marching on the freeway. Or one of them was killed, one of them was horribly injured.
Horribly injured, yeah. And, somebody clipped that over to me right away and said, hey, one of your colleagues likes your bill. So it's like, and it got it out there more, it's just, but it's a classic example, and it is a really clear example of the difference between the majority and the minority in the House, and what we're seeing with more and more within their membership of their caucus on these type of policies. And when you have these pressures from these type of members, you're going to see policy come out this way. And there are a lot of new people holding gavels down here, Ari, and in those important committees. And that's how these policies get out. They're going to get to the floor, and then we're going to have to do everything we can to try to stop them. And, of course, the good stuff, like my bill that I put forth and many others, like the graffiti bill again, I'm running that one again, they probably won't see the light of day.
Which is beyond crazy. Representative Andrew Barkis from Olympia, thank you so much for fighting for all of us, even though sometimes I know it feels like you're banging your head against a wall.
You bet, Ari, and thanks for carrying the message out there to all your great listeners, and we appreciate it very much.